Every December 24th, at exactly 3:17 p.m., LeBron James disappears. No interviews, no social media, no Lakers practice. His security team knows where he's going, but they're sworn to secrecy. His family knows why, but they've never spoken about it publicly. Even his closest friends only know fragments of the story. For the past 19 years, LeBron has driven alone to a small apartment complex in Akron, Ohio, carrying the same worn duffel bag and wearing the same Cleveland Cavaliers championship ring from 2016. He parks in the same spot, walks up 2 flights of stairs, and knocks on apartment 2B. The door opens to reveal Master Sergeant Billy Patterson, 73 years old, wheelchair-bound, and the keeper of a secret that would change everything you think you know about LeBron James. Have you ever wondered what creates unbreakable loyalty between two people who seem to have nothing in common? Because what happens in that small apartment every Christmas Eve isn't just a visit. It's a promise being kept, a debt being honored, and a story of sacrifice that will leave you understanding why some bonds can never be broken. But before I tell you about the secret that connects a basketball legend to a forgotten war hero, you need to understand how their paths first crossed on the darkest day of LeBron's life, December 24th, 2005. LeBron James was 20 years old, in his second NBA season, and about to face the worst Christmas of his life. His mother, Gloria, had been rushed to the hospital that morning. Chest pains, trouble breathing, doctors using words like critical condition and touch and go. LeBron sat in the waiting room of Akron General Hospital, still wearing his practice clothes, watching the clock tick toward what might be his last Christmas with the woman who'd raised him alone. The doctors had been honest but gentle. Gloria's condition was serious. They were doing everything they could, but the next 24 hours would be crucial. LeBron had called his teammates, his coaches, even tried to reach some family members. But it was Christmas Eve. Everyone was with their own families, caught up in their own celebrations. The hospital waiting room felt like the loneliest place on earth. That's when he first saw Master Sergeant Billy Patterson. Billy was visiting his own family member, his grandson Marcus, a young soldier who'd been injured in an IED explosion in Iraq and was spending Christmas in the rehabilitation wing. Billy made this trip every day, rain or shine, bringing stories from home and reminders that someone cared. But on this particular Christmas Eve, Billy noticed something that his 3 tours in Vietnam had trained him to recognize: a young man trying to carry a burden too heavy for one person. LeBron sat hunched in the corner chair, his hands clasped together, staring at the floor. To everyone else, he was just another worried family member. But Billy saw the telltale signs of someone fighting a battle they couldn't win alone. Billy had seen that look before, in foxholes, in field hospitals, in the eyes of young soldiers who'd lost everything they thought they could count on. So Billy did what Master Sergeants do. He took action. "Son," Billy said, rolling his wheelchair over to LeBron's corner of the waiting room, "you look like you could use some company." LeBron looked up, taking in the older man's military bearing, the faded tattoos on weathered arms, the purple heart pin on his jacket collar. Billy's eyes held the kind of steady strength that comes from surviving things most people only see in movies. "I'm okay," LeBron said quietly, the automatic response of someone who'd learned early to rely only on himself. Billy smiled. Not the pitying smile LeBron had been getting from nurses and hospital staff, but the knowing smile of someone who'd been exactly where LeBron was sitting. "That's what we all say, son. But being okay and being alone are 2 different things." Billy explained about his grandson Marcus, about the daily hospital visits, about how Christmas in a hospital had a way of putting everything in perspective. "You know what I learned in 3 tours overseas?" Billy continued. "The strongest people aren't the ones who never fall down. They're the ones who understand that accepting help isn't weakness. It's wisdom." LeBron found himself talking to this stranger about things he'd never told anyone. About the pressure of being the chosen one at 20 years old. About raising himself and his mother in a world that expected perfection. About feeling like everyone wanted something from him, but no one truly saw him. Billy listened without judgment, without advice, without trying to fix anything. He just listened. "You know what else I learned overseas?" Billy said after LeBron had finished talking. "The most important battles aren't fought on fields or courts. They're fought in moments like this, when life tests, whether you'll face the fear alone or accept that some fights require backup." That's when LeBron asked the question that would change both their lives. What if I don't know how to accept help? Billy's answer was simple. Then you learn. One day at a time. One person at a time. Starting today. They sat together in that waiting room for 6 hours. Billy shared stories from Vietnam that he'd never told anyone except Marcus. LeBron talked about dreams and fears that he'd been carrying alone since childhood. When the doctor finally came out with good news, Gloria was stable and would make a full recovery. LeBron felt something he'd never experienced before. The relief that comes from not facing the worst moment of your life alone. As they prepared to leave, Billy handed LeBron a small card with his address written in careful military handwriting. "Son," Billy said, "Christmas isn't about where you spend it. It's about remembering that no one should face life's battles without backup. You gave an old soldier the best Christmas present he's had in years. You reminded me why we fight for the next generation." LeBron looked at the card, then back at Billy. "What if I wanted to return the favor? What if I wanted to make sure you didn't spend Christmas alone either?" Billy's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding back for decades. "Son, that would be the honor of my lifetime." Christmas Day. 2005 was the first time LeBron James knocked on the door of apartment 2B. Billy lived alone in a modest 2-bedroom unit in the same government housing complex where LeBron had grown up. The apartment was small but spotless, filled with military memorabilia, photos of fallen comrades, and letters from Marcus, who was still recovering overseas. LeBron brought Christmas dinner from the nicest restaurant in Akron, but Billy insisted they cook together instead. "Young man," Billy said, pointing to the kitchen with his usual military directness, "fancy food doesn't make Christmas special. Sharing it with people who matter does." They spent 4 hours cooking, talking, and learning about each other's worlds. Billy told stories about Vietnam that helped LeBron understand that being strong didn't mean being invulnerable. LeBron shared his dreams about using basketball to change his community in ways that went far beyond sports. But it was during dessert that Billy revealed the secret that would bind them together forever. "LeBron," Billy said, his voice carrying the weight of decades, "I need to tell you something about why Christmas is so important to me." Billy reached into a worn wooden box on his mantelpiece and pulled out a faded photograph. It showed a young soldier, maybe 19 years old, smiling next to a Vietnamese family. "That's my best friend Jimmy Rodriguez. We enlisted together from Akron in 1968. Both of us 18 years old. Both of us scared, but trying to act tough." Billy's voice grew quieter. "Jimmy didn't make it home." December 24th, 1969. He stepped on a mine while trying to get medical supplies to a village that had been hit by artillery. Last thing he said to me was, "Billy, make sure my family knows I was thinking about them on Christmas." LeBron listened in complete silence as Billy continued. "I've spent every Christmas since then trying to honor that promise. But Jimmy didn't have family waiting at home. Just like you that first night in the hospital, he was carrying everything alone. So I decided that every Christmas, I'd make sure no young person in our community had to face the holidays without knowing someone cared." Billy looked directly at LeBron. For 36 years, I've been visiting kids in foster care, families in shelters, anyone who needed to know they weren't forgotten. You were supposed to be just another visit, a young man alone in a hospital. But Billy, LeBron said softly, I'm not alone anymore, and neither are you. That's when Billy revealed the secret that would change everything. LeBron, Jimmy Rodriguez wasn't just my best friend. He was your mother's older brother. He was your uncle. The room went silent except for the sound of Christmas music playing softly in the background. Your Uncle Jimmy died trying to help others, just like you've been doing your whole life. Gloria never told you because losing Jimmy broke her heart, and she was trying to protect you from that pain. But Jimmy would be so proud of the man you've become. LeBron felt like every piece of his life had suddenly clicked into place. The uncle he'd never known. The war hero he'd never heard about. The connection that explained why helping others felt like more than just charity. It felt like destiny. Billy, LeBron said, his voice thick with emotion, what if we honored Jimmy's memory together? What if every Christmas we made sure other people didn't have to face the holidays alone? Billy smiled through his tears. Son, I think Jimmy would like that very much. For 19 years, LeBron James and Master Sergeant Billy Patterson have spent every Christmas Eve together. But their tradition goes far beyond a simple visit. Starting that first Christmas in 2005, they began what they called Jimmy's Mission, a covert operation to ensure that no family in Akron spends Christmas alone or without hope. Billy, with his military precision and decades of community knowledge, identifies the families most in need. Single mothers working double shifts who can't afford presents. Veterans struggling with PTSD who've isolated themselves from the world. Foster children aging out of the system with nowhere to go on Christmas. LeBron provides the resources. But Billy provides something equally important: the strategy and the heart. Every year, they personally deliver Christmas dinners, presents, and most importantly, hope to exactly 23 families, one for each year Jimmy Rodriguez lived. But here's the secret that will break your heart. They do it completely anonymously. No cameras, no publicity, no social media posts. The families never know that LeBron James himself carried their Christmas dinner up 3 flights of stairs, or that a war veteran personally selected their children's gifts. The cards attached to each delivery are signed simply, "From Jimmy's family." Master Sergeant Patterson keeps meticulous records in the same wooden box where he stores Jimmy's photograph. Every family they've helped. Every child who smiled on Christmas morning because 2 strangers decided that love is an action, not just a feeling. Over 19 years, they've visited 437 families. They've provided Christmas for 1,247 children. They've prevented 23 evictions by quietly paying rent. They've funded 67 college scholarships in Jimmy Rodriguez's name. But the most incredible part of their secret mission isn't the money or the gifts. It's the relationships. Many of the children they visited in 2005 are now adults with children of their own. Some have become teachers, nurses, social workers, people who spend their lives helping others. They don't know that their Christmas visitor was LeBron James, but they remember the feeling of being cared for by strangers who expected nothing in return. Billy maintains contact with many of the families throughout the year. He attends graduations, birthday parties, and even some weddings. In his apartment, there are dozens of photos from people who simply know him as Mr. Billy, the man who showed up on Christmas when they needed hope most. But perhaps the most beautiful part of their tradition is what happens in apartment 2B after their deliveries are complete. Every Christmas Eve, after the last delivery is made, LeBron and Billy return to apartment 2B for what Billy calls the most important part of the mission. They sit together at Billy's small kitchen table, sharing a simple meal and reading aloud every letter, email, and Christmas card they've received from families they've helped over the years. There's the letter from Maria Gonzalez, whose 3 children received Christmas presents in 2010 when she was working 3 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet. Her oldest son graduated medical school last year. There's the photo from Tommy Chen, who was 8 years old when Jimmy's mission brought Christmas dinner to his family after his father was injured in a factory accident. Tommy is now a social worker who runs his own Christmas program for underprivileged families. There's the wedding invitation from Sarah Williams, who was a pregnant teenager living in her car when Billy and LeBron made sure she had a warm place to spend Christmas 2012. She's now a registered nurse with 2 beautiful children. Billy reads each one aloud in his steady military voice, while LeBron listens with the same attention he gives to game film. They celebrate every graduation, every job promotion, every birth announcement, every success story that grew from a single Christmas gesture. But the most precious tradition happens at exactly 11:47 p.m., the time when Jimmy Rodriguez died in Vietnam. They sit in silence for exactly 1 minute, thinking about the uncle LeBron never met, but whose spirit guides everything they do. Then Billy raises a glass of apple cider. He stopped drinking alcohol decades ago. And LeBron raises his own. To Jimmy Rodriguez, Billy says, the same words he's spoken for 19 years, who taught us that the greatest gift isn't what you receive, it's what you give when no one's watching. To Uncle Jimmy, LeBron responds, and to the family we choose to honor his memory. After their toast, they exchange simple, meaningful gifts. Billy gives practical items like books or photos from their deliveries, while LeBron brings personal touches like blankets for Billy's wheelchair or letters from children they've helped. But this year, LeBron brought something different to apartment 2B. Jimmy Rodriguez died at 19, trying to help people he'd never met in a country far from home. 56 years later, his nephew carries on that mission of service, proving that the greatest gifts aren't the ones wrapped in pretty paper. They're the ones that wrap hurting hearts in hope. What do you think? Does this change how you see LeBron James? Does it inspire you to create your own traditions of anonymous service? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more stories about the heart behind the King's Crown, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the most beautiful stories are often the ones that happen when no one's filming. Remember, all stories are fictional entertainment created for inspiration and discussion. The spirit of service, the value of anonymous giving, and the power of choosing love over recognition, that's 100% real.